Well, let's look at number 8, another factoring problem. So refresh our memory into factoring. We have our GCF method. This is the greatest common factor, and you always try to do this one. Then, if it's got 4 more terms, use grouping. If it's of the form x squared plus bx plus c, where b and c are numbers, it's PSD. If it's of the form ax squared plus bx plus c, a, b, and c are numbers, then it's key number. 2 terms of minus between them is difference 2 squares. 2 terms of minus between them, difference 2 cubes. If difference 2 squares doesn't work, you go down to difference 2 cubes. And then 2 terms of plus between them, sum of 2 cubes. So let's take a look at this problem. So I got 3x squared minus 13x plus 4. Now there is no GCF, so I come down here grouping, 4 more terms. No, this is 3 terms. PSD, no, there's a number before the x squared. Key number has an x squared, x, no x, and a number before the x squared. So x squared, x, no x, number before the x squared. This is key number. And you may have learned this with a different technique, so whatever technique you learned is fine. Key number, we take the number at the beginning times the number at the end. So we got 3 times 4, which gives us 12. Now we would ignore signs at that point. Like if that had been a negative 4, we would still went with just positive 4. And we're going to have 3 columns. A P column, we list all the products that give us 12. Well, 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. Then we have the S column, S for sum. That means we add these numbers together. 1 plus 12 is 13, 2 plus 6 is 8, and 3 plus 4 is 7. The difference column, D for difference, we subtract smaller from larger. 12 minus 1 gives us 11. 6 minus 2 is 4. 4 minus 3 is 1. Now the number we're looking for is a number in our middle term, which is 13, which is right here, which means I'm going to use 1 and 12. And what we do is we rewrite our middle term using those 2 numbers. Now we have a note. Our larger number in the P column is always the same sign as the middle term. Well, larger number of P column is a 12, and our middle term is negative, so this will be a negative 12x. Now if the number I circled is in the S column, S for same signs, they'll both be positive or both be negative. If the number I circled is in difference D column, then it'll be different signs. One will be positive and one will be negative. In this particular problem, the number I circled is in the S column, S for same signs, so if the 12 is negative, then the 1 will be negative. And then we factor by grouping. You group the first 2 together, group the last 2 together. First group has a 3x in common, and that leaves me x minus 4. Now, the second group doesn't have anything in common GCF-wise, but with GCF, anytime your first term is negative, you always factor out a negative. So I'll factor out a negative 1, and that gives me an x minus 4. Your goal is to get the parentheses the same, which they are, so I'll factor that out. And you can cross these out to see what goes in your second set of parentheses. So I cross those out, and what isn't crossed out is what you put over here. Now sometimes test banks will have this reversed, but that's okay. Multiplication is commutative. So let's see. It is reversed. 3x minus 1 times x minus 4. It looks like C is it. Well, C. So 8C. Let's double check that. Yep, checks.